Thank you. We apologize. Our exec ran over, so thank you all for waiting. Members of the audience, you may address the board regarding agenda items after the approval of minutes. Only those members whose names and addresses are listed on the sign-in sheet available prior to the start of the meeting will be recognized during new business. The chairperson will limit discussion of any item by the public to 3 minutes in order for the board to expeditiously conduct its business. Mr. Dolan, Superintendent report.
I would just like to remind everyone the vote is next week. And again, if everybody in this room tells 10 people and they tell 10 people, we have a tour tomorrow at 7:30 in the high school gymnasium lobby by the cafeteria. We'll meet. And then we have one Saturday morning. The most important thing, we keep encouraging people to come and see, take a look, and make an informed decision. So I know for those people that couldn't make it tonight, it's on the videotape. Tomorrow night, 7:30 in the lobby by the tennis court entrance of the high school. Saturday morning, 8:30, same thing. If you can't make either one of those, please call the superintendent's office and we'll schedule a personal tour. But it's so important that we get the word out, and the more people that come and see and make an informed decision, because a week from tomorrow, we will have our marching orders for what the district wants moving forward in the future. And with that, it gives me great pleasure to hand the superintendent's report over to Steve Harrison for a budget presentation.
Good evening. We're going to review essentially the presentation that was done for budget presentation number 3 tonight. There'll be some minor changes, mostly in dates and also wording. We no longer have a proposed budget, we have an adopted budget as per the last Board of Ed meeting. All right, tonight we'll cover the, I should have changed the wording here, but the adopted appropriation budget as well as the revenue budget and what happens in the contingent budget. Included in this year's adopted budget are the expenditures of additional security guards as well as a new security vehicle. We have additional technology support for instructional technology. In addition, further program support includes the conversion of a cosmetology room over the next 12 months. We have additional elementary clubs in the budget next year, as well as expenditures for technology room equipment / furniture. And across the district, we're also looking at additional student furniture upgrades. We have continued support for robotics and STEM and STEAM programs, as well as continued support for athletics and music in terms of equipment and supplies. We'll continue to participate in the BOE Summer School and enrichment programs, as well as supplement funding for the walk-in freezer at the high school. And in terms of buildings and grounds equipment, we have additional field equipment budget for next year, a commercial washing machine, as well as the high school auditorium air handler units, which were moved from the energy performance contract into the budget for next year. This all results in a budget of $117,081,377 that's adopted for next year, which is a 1.8% increase, or $2,066,095 heading into next year's budget. Again, that's a 1.8% increase. If we look towards the bottom of the spreadsheet here, we see that salary and benefits continue to be our main expenditure, as it is for each district throughout Long Island. And that's at 75.13% of the total budget. The next larger areas are in the areas of transportation, BOCES, and debt service for the district, all around 5% each. So those are your main contributors. Thank you. This is just another graphical presentation of the same numbers. The largest slice of the pie is, again, salary and benefits. That's 75.13%. I probably should go back one screen if you don't mind. So towards the top of the screen, salary and benefits are increasing $1.7 million next year versus this year. And you can see here it's primarily in the area of employee benefits, which is directly related to medical costs as well as our pension expense for our teaching staff. The instructional staff is not advancing on a salary schedule next year, so that's why that's going down, as well as with some retirements that are taken out of next year's budget. The 4.94% on the non-instructional side is all contractually obligated based upon collective bargaining. Thank you. So again, just reiterating, the largest piece of our expenditure budget is tied to salary and benefits at 75.13%. And as you go around the pie chart, the next three larger slices are related to transportation, debt service, and BOCES expenditures. Okay, this chart is showing a couple of different things. The enrollment trend is in the green line, which is going down from 2012-13 at a high of approximately 4,300 students down to next year's projected 3,700 students. The bar part of the the bar part of the chart, the darker blue that's you can see on the screen is your instructional staff. The lighter blue is your non-instructional staff, and the lightest blue are your benefits. So what I'd like you to look at on the darker portion of the bar chart is the stability of that expense over the past 3 years, 16-17 actual through 18-19 budget. And what you're seeing is an increasing in the lighter shaded part of the graph, which is your benefits piece. So the Board of Ed has done, through collective bargaining, their attempt to stabilize those expenditures. However, things that are out of our control are the medical and the TRS, and that's responsible for the increase going into next year's budget. On the revenue side, we continue to get the majority of our funding through property taxes. 61% of our budget is supported by property taxes, which is going up 0.7% next year, well below the property tax cap of 3.42. The next larger contributor is state aid at 33%. And then we're also using some reserves at $3.8 million, or 3%, to help offset the budget for next year. So that's money that's taken from prior year's surplus that is in reserve to help offset and support next year's budget. This here is how the New York State requires each district to calculate the tax levy. Going down to the bottom of the spreadsheet, you see that the proposed tax levy for next year is going up 0.7%. That's well below the maximum calculation of 3.42%. So the district could have went out with a 3.42% increase and just passed that with a 50% majority, and we would have been within our tax cap. But we're going out at 0.7. This chart shows the reason why it could go up as high as 3.42, and I'll explain that briefly. Last year's tax levy was $70.8 million. There's a tax-based growth factor that's provided to the district as well as other districts by New York State, and that's a factor of what they feel the building brick and mortar changes that are happening within East Islip boundaries, and they're suggesting that our rate there is not flat, that it's going up by an amount of 1.0042. So that's suggesting that we can raise our tax levy by almost $300,000 based upon building that's going on in the East Islip School District area. The next thing is we're comparing our pilot payments, and really what we're looking at is the change in pilot payments. These are payments made by businesses in the area that are not making tax payments, but they're making payments in lieu of taxes. And that's going up next year. So when that factor goes up year over year, your ability to raise taxes is decreased by that same amount. The next factor is the capital tax levy. And what that compares one year to the next is the amount of debt service that the district has versus the amount of state aid it's getting. So in 17-18, the local share, which is the difference between those two numbers, is $989,000. And because of state aid ending next year on certain projects which we're still paying debt service for, the local share is going up by $720,000. What's also in that number is the first interest payment on the energy performance contract. So the amount that we would need from our local share is going up by $720,000. And again, that's the difference between the debt service in one year minus the state aid compared to the prior year. And then finally, the growth factor, known as CPI, is increasing at a rate of 2.13% for next year. However, there's a cap on how much that can be raised, and that's 2%. So when you put all these factors together, that's what represents our 3.42% potential increase. The majority of that's coming from the allowable levy growth factor and the changes in the local share. Okay, this chart has two bars for each year, and it's comparing what the allowable tax levy increases is versus what was actually levied. So in the recent year, being next year, we could have went as high as 3.42%. However, we went at 0.7. And if you look at the 17-18 school year, we again were well below the tax levy cap at 0.59 as compared to 1.39%. And in 16-17, we went flat. We could have went up to 0.08%. So if you look at the last 5 years or 4 years, I believe the average is 0.64% annual increase in the tax levy for the most recent time frame. This screen just compares the amount of state aid we're getting next year as compared to this year and the different categories. The foundation aid increase is 1.9%, or a little less than $500,000. As was explained in prior budget presentations, the district does not do as well on foundation aid as other districts do because we're not in a state of poverty in the district. We're about average across the state, so we get essentially the minimum increase in foundation aid from the governor's budget. Other increases we're seeing here, especially in the BOCES area, is a reimbursement from the expenditures this year made for the purchase of the smart boards through BOCES. So the majority of that increase in that particular line is related to the smart boards from this year. And as I mentioned on the previous screen, building aid is going down on projects that have run their course, and we've received our 15 years worth of payments on the state aid side. So with a contingent budget, if the after the budget's been defeated by the community, the Board of Ed has an opportunity to put the budget out a second time or directly to contingency. If the budget's voted down on both times, they go to contingency. And what's subtracted from a contingency budget are those expenses that are not deemed to be absolutely necessary to operate the school district program, both from preserving property and the health and safety of the student. So when we put our budget together on a contingent budget, we have to subtract out equipment and student supplies and certain other expenditures. In addition to doing that, the tax levy in a contingent budget can be no higher than the last approved budget. So the 0.7% increase that's going into next year's budget would have to be removed, and you'd have to be flat year to year on your tax levy. So here's what a contingent budget would look like versus the budget that's going out to the voters on the 15th. The contingent budget would be $114,839,000. And that's because we're subtracting out student supplies and equipment. And additionally, we have to keep the tax levy flat from one year to the next. So that's why the levy is being shown at $70.8 million versus the $71.3 in the adopted budget. In addition, there's a calculation that's done which says that we have to keep our administrative portion of the budget flat to the previous approved budget, and that's why that's decreasing by about $160,000. Okay, so here's the figure that I mentioned earlier, 0.64%. It's actually over the last 5 years. That percent increase has been well below 1%, as well as well below our tax levy cap. And this year, again, we've appropriated additional funds to support the budget of $3.8 million. Part of that is supporting the payment that's due back to the state, about $449,000 on the state aid side. So the remaining dates of the budget are next week. Is next week, May 15th, budget vote here from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m., which is the budget vote and election, as well as the vote for the bond project. Okay, are there any questions from the board?
Steve, you said the proposed increase is 0.7% on tax levy, correct? Now, last year, they were 0.59.
That's
And
correct.
after assessments, it was decreased.
That's right, after the assessments came back, because
What was the impact on everyone's tax bill last year after the 0.59?
it was a decrease in the mid 0.5%, 0.53 area. I don't have the exact number with me tonight, but it was a decrease around 0.53%.
Okay, so even if the public approves a 0.7% increase, the reality is it's probably going to be a lot lower than that, correct?
It essentially could be if it follows the same trend from the past couple of years, which was made up of an increase in assessed valuations as well as a change from the homestead portion of the tax base to non-homestead.
I just got a letter saying my taxes are going up 10% on assessment, so I'll do my part.
Nice extension.
Solar panels. So much for saving money.
And we thank you, we thank you.
Yeah, I'm sure you're welcome.
Great. Any other questions?
I just had a question, I know what you're gonna say, but the extra money that we got from the state, which was what, 140,000, I guess?
Through state aid?
Yes. Where did that go? Did that just go into a general fund, or where did that money go?
No, the last draft of the budget was increased to reflect the most recent budget passed by the state. So it's supporting the budget. And also, we had a couple of changes from the last draft. We increased our expenditures. Between draft 2 and draft 3, we had an increase in expenditures, and we also had a reduction. Remember, the first draft of the budget kept the tax levy at 1%.
Right.
So to make up the difference between the 0.7 and 1%,
That
all
was,
these factors came together.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions? No? Thank you, Mr. Harrison.
Thank you very much, Mr. Harrison. And very quickly, how about a nice round of applause for Michael Solomon, that gentleman over there filming. It's getting a little bittersweet, Michael. Only a couple more meetings to go. He's going to graduate, go to Five Towns College. Tonight we asked him 2 things he's going to be doing this summer. We want to know 1 fun thing and 1 learning experience. And the nice thing is, when you can marry your passion, and take this from a personal experience, if you can marry your passion with your hobbies and create a job, you're never going to work a day in your life. So we said, we asked, you guys are good. We asked Michael what he's going to do for fun this summer. He's going to direct and do some filming of short films in preparation for college. And his learning experience, Michael's going to do a little screenwriting to increase his repertoire. So Michael, keep up the great work. Thank you very much. Back to you, President Carney.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Nolan. Thank you. Mr. Solomon? All right. Move on to the minutes. Be resolved, the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, approves the regular business meeting minutes for April 12th, 2018. May motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Be it resolved, the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, approves the special business meeting minutes, Eastern Suffolk BOCES budget and election of April 18th, 2018. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Can we just put in the minutes that Joanne does a really good job on the minutes?
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain? I was not attending.
Please put that in.
Be it resolved, the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, approves the regular business meeting and annual budget adoption minutes of April 19th, 2018. Motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, public comment on agenda items only. Do you have any questions on the agenda items? Not at this time, thank you. We'll move along to certified personnel. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education approves the resignations, terminations, leave of absence, position abolitions, employment appointments, tenure appointments, and salary changes in accordance with applicable provisions of education law and civil service law as cited in the certified personnel attachment. Motion?
Motion. Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Be it resolved upon the non-certified personnel. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education approves the resignations, terminations, leave of absence, position abolitions, employment appointments, tenure appointments, and salary changes in accordance with applicable provisions of education law and civil service law as cited in the non-certified personnel attachment. A motion?
Motion.
Second.
Discussion?
There are some positions for fall sports coaches that have not been filled. Is that why they're not all on this report?
Yes, we hope to have them all, we would like to get them all done by next week or by June at the latest.
And what happens to about like winter sports and spring sports? Is that also coming down the?
We're trying to get as many as we can done before the close of business, or at the latest, the beginning of July. We want to get all, the sooner we can get the coaches in place, the sooner they can begin their off-season workouts.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Memorandum of Agreement. Whereas the labor agreement between the Board of Education and the East Islip Union Free School District and the East Islip Teachers Association Paraprofessionals Chapter expired on June 30th, 2015. Whereas representatives of the respective parties have engaged in negotiations for a successor agreement to the expired labor agreement. And whereas the representatives of the district and association reached an agreement that has been memorialized in a memorandum of agreement, which memorandum of agreement has been reviewed by the Board of Education. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education in the East Islip Union Free School District herewith approves the memorandum of agreement herein above referenced and authorize the expenditure of funds necessary to implement said memorandum of agreement. And be it further resolved that the President of the Board of Education and the Superintendent of Schools are hereby authorized to execute the new collective bargaining agreement incorporating the terms of the memorandum of agreement on behalf of the Board of Education. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Discussion?
Can you repeat the resolution?
No. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, employment agreement, be it resolved that the Board of Education, the East Islip Union Free School District hereby approves the employment agreement with the Director of Facilities dated May 8, 2018, and be it further resolved that the Board President is herewith authorized to execute said agreement. A motion?
Motion.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, election worker budget vote. Be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education approves the attached list of election workers for the 2018-19 budget and board election vote on May 15, 2018. A motion?
Motion.
Second.
Discussion?
Who pays for this?
Not me.
The school district does.
Yeah.
There's a budget line for it.
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education approves the abolishment of policy number 5280.1 athletic participation. Any motion?
Motion.
Second.
Discussion? Mr. Manzo isn't here, but he's worked very hard on updating a lot of the policies, and this abolishment is because we adopted the policies at the last meeting, so we appreciate his work on updating those. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Treasurer's report. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education accepts the Treasurer's report for the month of March 2018. Get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Discussion? Mr. Goplik?
Nope.
You asked to
No, I
not
asked
have a
for-
consent.
I was gonna say, what happened?
No, I asked for extra classroom activities.
Oh, okay. All right, you get a pass for that one. All in favor?
Aye.
Extra Classroom Activity Fund report. Be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education accepts the Extra Classroom Activity Fund report for the month of March 2018. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Discussion?
I just wanted to ask Steve if everything that we've talked about in the past with respect to keeping this, I guess, legitimate and the processes that we put in place with respect to these classroom accounts have been followed.
Certainly from a financial perspective, I don't see all the other mechanics of it, but certainly from a financial perspective.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know. But it's just something that we should see more often, that's all. That's $300,000 in that account. Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Health Service Contract with Great Neck Public Schools as written. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye. I love the as written, by the way. Thank you.
Health Service Contract with the Brentwood Union Free School District as written.
Motion.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
BOCES Classroom Use Agreement for Summer School. Be resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education approves the classroom use agreement with Eastern Suffolk BOCES for summer school for 2018 being held at the East Islip High School. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Discussion?
Well, when we first started the summer school, we said we were going to keep on revisiting this. Is this still a positive that we're doing the summer school?
Yeah, some of the value,
Determined that?
well, we need another year. We need one more year to really make a determination, but what you see is we're getting, and Paul has the numbers, and I'll have him bring them to the next meeting. It's not just a straight cash savings, but when a child sits through the class and either just fails the Regents or passes the Regents, doesn't pass the class, if they have to sit for another half year or full year, it can become very disruptive to the educational process. And to be honest with you, it's an incentive for the children to, going to summer school is, it's an inconvenience. And rather than let them coast along for a whole nother year, it's better to get them into summer school. And we've seen good numbers there. And I think at first blush it's well worth the investment, but I'll have Paul bring the numbers to the next meeting.
Mr. Harrison, I might be wrong, but I thought I heard that in the new budget, the state budget, there was a change in the way you're reimbursed for the aid for summer school. Do you know anything about that? Am I?
The projection for state aid for summer school, the percentage was going to decrease. Did that pass?
Oh, no,
No?
that didn't.
Okay.
No, thank you.
That was
Took
one of
me
the,
a minute,
yeah,
but
that was
thank
one of the
you.
discussions,
That's
but yeah.
something we heard at the
That was
legislative.
exactly what I asked you.
So, but no, that didn't happen.
No.
Okay,
Mr. Harrison's overworked.
well done.
All right.
Yes, he is.
All in favor?
Aye.
Multi-service agreement. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education approves the 3-year service agreement with Eastern Suffolk BOCES for an internet access project. The cost for the period of October 2018 through June 2018 will be $26,403.67. The annual cost for year 2 and year 3 will be $35,204.91. The total cost for this project will be $96,813.49 over the 3 years. This cost will be included in the BOCES shared service agreement. This expense will be paid from the general fund. A motion?
Motion.
Second.
Discussion? I know our Director of Technology is not here, but does this incorporate the all internet access that's required to support the next 3 years of the technology plan?
This is one of the 2 lines that provides our internet service, so yes, and it also provides connection directly back to Eastern Suffolk BOCES.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Student accident insurance. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education approves the student accident insurance coverage offered through pupil benefits at a premium of $48,481.60 and catastrophic coverage through United States Fire Insurance Company at a premium of $3,762, effective July 1st, 2018 through June 30, 2019. The total premium of $52,243.60 is approximately 15% lower than the previous school year cost. This expense will be paid from the general fund. Got a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Discussion?
How much did we, how many kids did we have to cover last year? How many people got hurt? What was
Yeah,
the total?
I didn't bring that information. This allows for coverage for all our students to be covered if there is an accident. We did go back to the vendors and we got approximately a $6,000 decrease from last year's premium because we did send out some competitive bids and our current provider was higher than what the bids showed, and we gave them an opportunity to beat that price, and they did. So if you like, I can give you some more details about the claims from prior years.
Yeah, would you please, because I like, you know.
Is this also based on a formula per student that we're paying, or is it just a running average of the amount of students that are covered?
This company does provide a per-student formula.
And because of the declining enrollment, that's also a factor?
Well, our claims have been going up in recent years, so we've been seeing increases. Even though the enrollment's been going down, the claims have been going up.
Mm-hmm.
So this decrease is due to the result of competitive bidding.
Good job.
Great, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, social studies textbooks. Be resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education approves the disposal of the following social studies textbooks that are no longer fit for use. 90 World History, 120 Global History and Geography. I'm not reading the ISBN number, sorry. And a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Donation? Be resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education accepts the donation of $1,034.46 for the Timber Point Elementary School Activity Fund. This donation will be used to purchase science books to supplement and support the Writing Unit 3 curriculum. The revenue code to be increased is 2705.000, and the general fund code to be increased is 2110-480-06-000. Get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Discussion? Can I ask, this wasn't in the budget? This is supplemental,
Supplemental.
this is something they wanted that they didn't ask for in their original budget?
That's correct.
Okay. Any other question? All in favor?
Aye.
Appropriation change, be it resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education approve the attached list of appropriation changes. Any motion?
Motion.
Second.
Discussion?
Okay, we have a number of changes being requested. The largest one is in support of an initiative that's district-wide painting in the gymnasiums. We've been busy meeting with vendors. We've met with a BOCES contractor that's provided quotes. This is making provision for that painting to happen over the summer. In order for that to happen, you really have to do it in the year prior to be able to secure a contractor to do the work. This is probably the outside number. I would expect the number to come in lower based upon meetings we had today. Monies were made available from this transportation line due to savings we've had in our fleet reduction. We have some miscellaneous increases, somewhat of smaller nature, less than $5,000 that are year-end expenditures. And for testing supplies, the middle school is looking to order some testing supplies and didn't have sufficient funds, so we made a transfer for that purpose. And we're also looking to buy some additional toner needed for the printers throughout the district. And finally, we're looking into topping off some of our fuel oil tanks in each of the buildings.
Yeah, we spoke about the fuel oil tanks. Did we look into not topping them off? Because they're way above capacity. We never get less than, what, 3/4 of a tank ever, and we continue to top them off. Did we look into that? And not topping them off this year? Not you, Steve, but Eric maybe?
I mean, yes, I could discuss it again with Steve.
What's the benefit of topping them off?
The high school.
Because gas prices are increasing and we're concerned about the
Yeah, but the
hedging,
fuel system
the
has
fact
been
that
for
yeah.
years and years.
So it looks like the trend is up, so if we could purchase it or buy futures at this rate, we're going to be better off, but we can't buy futures, we're a municipality.
No, what I'm saying is if the fuel is sitting in the tank for years and years and years, we keep topping it off and topping it off, we never, some of that fuel's been in the tank now for 20 years because we keep topping it off. And you want to use some of that fuel up before you top it off. So maybe we can look into that.
Yeah, we could. It's just one of those things where, because gas has been so low for the past 5 years, we haven't switched to it, we really haven't budgeted for it. And so at this time, it was because of the issues we had in the high school boiler room and the JFK boiler room and others, and also RCK, we used more fuel than normal this year. So with the surplus, we were looking at that, because again, it's not something we normally budget for, as far as, it's a very low number that we put in a line item for the fuel oil for the year. So we don't even count on using fuel oil throughout the year. So that's why you use this for topping them off. We had to transfer because fuel oil is not, as far as a budgetary item, is basically kind of non-existent.
But that's the point. If we barely use it, right, and we top it off, we barely use the fuel in the tanks. So why even bother topping it off? We still have so many gallons of tank, gallons of fuel in the ground in those tanks. I just don't, I mean, it's $60,000 that we could spend on something else. That's just not fair. Thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, be it resolved, the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, recommends the Board of Education approve the, doesn't read right, the special ed and special ed preschool changes, that the body of that is incorrect. So if you can correct that, Joanne, in the minutes. So we have the special ed and preschool special ed recommendations, correct?
Motion.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, old business? Anyone have any old business they'd like to bring up? Mr. Manley is not here.
I know, I can't answer this question, I disregard.
Nothing from you, Mr. Behan? Mr. Carpop?
No, I'm good. I did the polls open next week.
6 a.m.
6 o'clock.
6 a.m., Marie?
What?
What time do the polls open? We're trying to draw you into the conversation.
6 o'clock.
6 a.m.
What
till
time
9
will you be
till
here,
9
Marie?
p.m.
I will be here at 5:15.
with
Till 9.
coffee and
bless.
donuts.
To what? Till
God
9.
bless, God bless.
And then by the time they open the absentee ballots after the polls close. Because you have to wait, so that they might have voted by the machine, so you can't open the absentee ballots before then. So maybe 9:45, they do it then.
Thanks, Marie.
Terrific. Thanks, Marie. Any other old business? No? New business? No? Can we talk about a capital not a capital, a repair reserve, and starting to do the research over the summer to present that over the next year to the community in preparation for a proposition for our next year, considering that we are doing work, and we need work done throughout the district, and that the bond proposal does not address everything that needs to be remediated. So can we start preparing that and looking at other districts to see what their funding level is?
And I guess our attorneys, if you could ask them the implications and limitations, if any, of the repair reserve, and even, I think Mr. Yu, our auditor, knew something about them as well. If we get some information from them about the pros and cons of opening such an account.
Okay. And then we'll need the timing to be in line with the budget, or will that notification have to be prior to budget notification? If you could look at that, like a 45-day or
Well,
90-day.
It requires a public vote,
Mhm.
so you could time it with the budget, or you could have a separate vote, but if it's with the budget, it'll be the same.
It'll be the
Timing.
same timing, okay. All right, great. Yeah, we'll have discussion throughout the year once we get some more information, but that way we can start the ball rolling. And as we have the auditors here at the year end, and we have, Mr. Harrison has some free time down the road, not that he really has any, but could budget that into his time. Any other new business? Okay, Marie, do we have anyone that would like to make comment?
Just one,
One, okay.
Stephen Sperling.
Okay, you don't actually, we can cut off the video though. Thank you so much.
No problem.